What's up, everyone? So let's just get the point out of the way, shall we? This game has consumed me. I started playing this game about a week and a half ago. I have 60 hours in it already. It's constantly on my mind. It's ruined me. It's wrecked me. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys kind of an overview of the core aspects of the game along with my thoughts on each without providing any spoilers whatsoever. So for me, that means I obviously will not be providing any story spoilers at all, but I also am not really going to show any content that is beyond what you might encounter yourself in your first couple of hours playing the game. So that's just based on, when I'm playing a new game like this, discovering things for myself, even if it's something simple like a new weapon or like a new, piece of apparel or something. That kind of feeling of original discovery is really special to me personally, so I want to preserve that for you guys if you are like me in that sense. So I've also made some handy chapters for you if you just want to check out one aspect of this review in particular. So let's get into it. So first, I want to talk about the story. There are like two main aspects to the story here. The first is the obvious one, the campaign. To avoid spoilers, I'll just say that the main story is compelling, and I'll leave it at that. The second part of the story, I feel, is the universe that the Starfield team has created. And this is where this game blows all other games out of the water. I'm sorry to other games, but yeah, I really feel that this game was not overhyped. It was not overpromised. The universe feels so deeply thought out, so expansive, and really realistic. It has a deep history of war and treaties and politics. If anyone watching this video has seen the show The Expanse, I feel the same way about that show. It just feels really believable for what the future of humanity could look like if we ever do expand out into space. There are over 1,000 planets and moons you can explore in this game, and on each, things to discover. Some planets have more depth than others naturally, flora, fauna, geological features, different mineral resources, but every single planet has something to discover. But it's not just the number of planets either, it's the depth. Cities with multiple districts, neighborhoods with nooks and crannies and alleyways and dive bars. You can spend hours on one planet and not do it all. So, basically the main campaign is good, but for me, it's that pure sci-fi adventure immersion. The getting tangled up in countless side stories and subplots, in places on accident that I never expected to. That's where I'm having the most fun. And I've even had some encounters that made me tear up. So yeah, that's all I have to say about the story. The universe is a 10 out of 10. All right, so now let's talk about the graphics. Does anything even really need to be said? Let's just state the obvious. The game is visually stunning. There are a couple different aspects to the graphics here that I want to call attention to. So first we have the characters. So these are close to, if not the best, characters I've seen in a game so far. I'm especially impressed by the skin textures, not just tones, but undertones, imperfections, scars, birthmarks, dark circles, large pores, freckles, you name it. The character editor is extremely in-depth. You can pick exactly the body type and body composition you want for your player. You can change and then fine-tune pretty much every single facial feature. There's a decent variety of hairstyles, though the hair colors do leave a little to be desired, in my humble opinion. And then, of course, we have, for lack of a better term, sci-fi art, because that's what this game really is. The environment is obviously incredible, from, the desolate planetary surfaces and geological features to fine details in a back room that you notice if you really take your time with the game. The environment's just extremely immersive. Alright, so now I want to touch on another huge aspect of the game, obviously ships and spaceflight. So I already just had my whole spiel about the graphics, so I won't go on and on about how beautiful the ships are, but they are. But the ships are well designed. I feel like they are complex enough to be realistic, but they're not so realistic as to be overwhelmingly complex, if that makes sense. They have a few main systems, your weapon systems, your engines, your shield, your grav drive, which is how you jump across great distances. You also have a main reactor that provides a certain amount of power, and you can control how this power is allocated to your different systems depending on what you need in the moment. You can also upgrade and modify ships extensively. You can purchase new ships for a lot of credits and even commandeer them from others. Late game, you can even build completely custom ships from scratch. I think the variety of different ship styles, classes is great. And the look of the ships is obviously A+ for me. But there we go again, talking about the graphics. So now I want to talk about the spaceflight itself. So when you're sitting in the pilot seat, the HUD is beautiful, but flying does take a bit to get the hang of. I feel like I'm still pretty bad at it, dozens of hours in. However, you won't really be flying except during combat, to be totally honest. And combat is both fun and very frustrating and bewildering. Let's just say I would die in 5 seconds if this were a real aerial dogfight. But it is fun. It is quite fun. Back to flying though, you could technically fly around star systems manually, but the distances between objects are so vast that it would take you days of real life time to do so. So instead, you'll grav jump between systems, and for shorter, but still many days or weeks of flying time. For shorter trips, you'll just select a destination, set course, and enjoy a very brief cutscene of your ship flying there. You also do not land or take off manually, which disappointed me at first, but after a certain number of hours in the game, honestly, I'm glad I don't need to do that every time because I am bopping around a lot and it would be a major time suck away from other aspects of the game. My one remaining beef with the spaceflight is that I think you should be able to grav jump mid-combat if you need to. The game prevents this. I guess it sees it as a cheap move, maybe, to suddenly jump to a different star system mid-fight. But I feel like it could have come at just a risk. You have to remove power from your weapons and shield to power up the grav drive, for example. And if you pull it off, you've made a getaway. Sadly, though, it's not an option, but that's really my only issue with the spaceflight. That being said, if you're going into this game expecting it to be like a flying sim, that it is not. It is not that. All right, so I also want to just touch on the equipment in this game. The spacesuits are probably my favorite part. I feel like I've named a new favorite thing about the game in every segment of this video. I need to get my priorities in order. But I personally, like I said before, I personally feel like discovering new suits and weapons, aka pulling them off a corpse, is one of the most exciting parts of playing a new game. So I'm not going to show the vast majority of what I've discovered, but just know that there is such a wide variety of spacesuits, helmets, and packs, all with different stats and protections against different environmental factors. So you have to kind of be strategic about what combinations you're using to go out and about depending on your environment. You can also mod pretty much all of your equipment to increase its stats in different areas. There are also aid items, basically any consumable. So there's food, which you don't need for energy, but it just increases your health. And then there are also obviously medical supplies, and then there are drugs that impact your health and your performance in combat. Which brings me to the next section, player health, and also we'll talk about the skill tree. So when you're wearing an O2 pack, your oxygen level will show down here. This does not run out over time. Those of you who've been playing Dave the Diver don't expect it to, okay? It's based on your activity level. It's basically just like your energy meter in any other game. Sprinting lowers O2. When it gets to 0, your suit starts filling with carbon dioxide. Slowing down again to a walk allows that carbon dioxide level to recede and oxygen to build back up. So pretty straightforward. Health is just a very simple health bar, but you can gain various afflictions like hypothermia, bleeding, burns, radiation, infections, and so forth. Different aid items are needed to treat different afflictions, and little icons will show to indicate what type of aid item you need. So certain antibiotics for certain infections and so forth. Many cities also have medical centers where you can go for treatment if you have the cash. During character creation, you can also pick a backstory for your player, as well as add some optional traits. Basically, all traits and backstories come with special perks and starting skills. Some of them unlock special dialogue, some even unlock specific encounters you can never have without that trait from the get-go. So as for your skills, there is a skill tree here. As you gain skill points, you can spend them to earn skill badges in a few different categories: physical, social, combat, science, and tech. And once you have unlocked a skill badge, you can level up that particular skill by completing specific challenges. The whole process is very involved. So another feature of the game that I feel was pretty hyped up is outpost building. Now I will say I feel this is the only area of the game that falls a little bit flat for me, especially compared to the insane way every other aspect exceeded my expectations. The outposts are just not quite as customizable as I thought they would be, especially not until very late game, which is fine, but just know that going in, you start off with only very basic things that you can build, and you will need research, which we'll talk about in a second, and you need a fairly advanced skill badge to even begin the research projects in question. So it takes some time and commitment to even unlock the cool stuff, in my opinion, but it is pretty awesome to have an outpost set up on a desolate world, kicking your feet up in a cozy hab while your turrets outside mow down approaching enemies. So let's talk about research. As I mentioned before, I don't want to show too much content beyond what you might see in your first couple of hours of gameplay yourself to preserve your original experience. So we'll just look at one unlocked project. I've mentioned that you can mod your weapons, spacesuits, and so forth. You can also craft aid items and drugs after you've researched them, and of course, build outposts. It's fairly straightforward. Different research projects require an input of specific resources and an acquisition of certain skill badges. So for example, I've already researched manufacturing 1, but to level up to manufacturing 2 and unlock some new outpost stuff, not only do I need to input all these resources, but I also need to acquire the outpost engineering skill badge, which is a fairly advanced skill badge. It's going to be a while before this particular character of mine achieves that badge, if I ever come back to this character after this video. Because of that resource input in particular, research can feel a little grindy, which is normally something I do not like in games. But I honestly do not have a problem with resource acquisition in this game, since it's so fulfilling to explore the different environments. Truly, the way to play this game, I think, is just to take your time. Do not get rid of anything you ever pick up, okay? Even if you think it's garbage, okay? Because I swear to God, there'll be a use for it in this research tree. And last but not least, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, what is at the forefront of many people's minds when it comes to this game, the performance. So in my 60 odd hours, I have had a total of 6 glitches. I was taking note to bring it up in the video, but these glitches were minor, annoying, but minor, and they've resolved on their own within a few minutes. They actually almost all had to do with spacesuits and helmets. Basically, my helmet not being visible for a minute or so, or somebody else just in their apparel instead of a spacesuit when they should have been in a spacesuit. That happened a few times, and then there was one time where my head full-on disappeared because I tried to climb a ladder with my weapon drawn. That was frustrating, but also humorous. But again, not really game altering. And I'm pleased to report that those are truly the only glitches I've encountered whatsoever thus far. I've also not experienced even one moment of lag. My specs are above the minimum required to play the game. I recently got a new one after one too many blue screens on my last PC while I was doing really important stuff. But personally, I was super impressed with the performance, considering how involved the game is, too. So, in summary, TLDR, or perhaps TLDL, too long didn't listen, TLDW, too long didn't watch. As a lifelong science fiction lover and lifelong gamer as well, I have to say that Starfield is, this is like the open world space RPG that I feel like should have existed all along. Like I said, even though the main story is compelling, I honestly do not think that is the main draw of the game. I think this game is going to be popular because of that immersive environment, because it really feels like you're on an epic adventure through space with endless opportunities for exploration and just discovery. I think that Bethesda has been under a lot of scrutiny when it comes to this release based on how some previous releases went, and I know people have kind of been trying to temper their expectations, but I truly believe that Bethesda knocked it out of the park with this game. I have not felt this way about a game in a really long time, and this really is like the space epic that science fiction lovers and gamers have been waiting for. So please, please let me know your thoughts about this game. I do expect to be making more content around this game, so please let me know if there's anything in particular you would like to see. Yeah, I'm really happy, and now I'm gonna stop recording and I'm gonna go back to playing it. So thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me here and listen to the opinion of little old me. I will see you soon, and until then, please take care of yourselves and each other.